sentence on the front of this. Exposure to traumatic or critical events on the job is an occupational hazard for ODOT personnel. I've had the privilege of giving this presentation to different agencies, different departments, different groups, and invariably I get someone coming up to me afterwards going, how did you get them to put this in print? As you know, there's a great many states, a lot of agencies, that absolutely refuse to believe that occupational stress injury happens. And I'm very pleased and proud to say my agency and my state are not amongst them. A long time ago. On this forum, we had 2 lessons in the medicine cabinet. Pepto-Bismol for the inside, iodine for the outside, and if you didn't have a bone sticking through the skin, you were fine. Walk it off. I went to my first fatality crash at age 17 as a tow operator. Wasn't even legal to drive a tow truck. The company owner was more concerned about partying on the weekends than whether the kid he hired for the weekend was even legal to drive a truck. At age 17, man, I was getting pretty good at it by that time. I drove a tow truck from 1980 till 2009, either full or part-time. Saw and did a lot of stuff. As my tow brothers and sisters in here can attest to. But honestly, I thought the demons were my friends. Till one morning, 2 years ago this last June, I woke up a changed man. And I knew what had happened. I'd taken thousands of hours of training in peer support and crisis intervention. I didn't need anybody to tell me what was going on. I woke up that day and my backpack was not only too full to drag behind me anymore, it puked all over me. A few weeks later, I was diagnosed with cumulative PTSD because of the job. Yeah, I didn't have the one. I had the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. So why do I tell you all this? Why do I splay my life all in front of a whole bunch of strangers, a whole bunch of coworkers, a whole bunch of dear friends that I guarantee haven't heard this story before? Traumatic memory and all sorts of other things that, frankly, we need to survive. But I think we'd all agree that we've seen road rage, right? Road rage is people thinking with this and not with this. If everybody stayed in the frontal cortex, our law enforcement friends would have far less to do. Again, graphically oversimplified, in your limbic system or caveman brain, I PG-13 this up for the crowd. That's really all it's good for, keeping us alive. I'll use an example, and I'm sure you've all been there. You respond to a crash, and they've barely knocked bumpers. You can almost see the I'd rather be shopping at Nordstrom's license plate frame slightly askew, and the 2 people are nose to nose at each other. Or they're absolutely completely falling apart. And us being who we are, we get the overwhelming desire to go, really? This is bad? You ought to see last week. We don't, but we want to. So it can be just about anything. A traumatic event. An event outside the range of usual human experience that would be markedly distressing to almost anyone. Guess what, people? That's what we do for a line of work. Would you agree? One thing I think I can make a broad general statement about all first responders and towers, hazmat, everybody, I'm going to lump us all into first responders. We are not normal. We do this on a daily basis. And they still expect us to be okay. Pretty much almost anything can be traumatic. Here's where the individuality comes in again. You're on the scene of something. You're perfectly fine. No big deal. Just your routine failed. You got somebody else that's got that I'm not doing so great look. It doesn't make it right or wrong. It's that context. There's a lot of factors that come into how are you going to be that day. The weather's great. You're feeling great. Your spouse actually likes you. You've got plenty of money in the bank. You go to an icky. Okay. It's been raining for 3 weeks. 2 of those weeks you've had the cold or flu. Your spouse really doesn't like you. And you've got way more a month for the money. And then you go to that icky. So you've already got a whole bunch of stuff on that plate, and then really, you decided to do this today? Like it's their fault, but still. It just depends on where you are. To what we call a new normal. Now, how new normal that is, and how much closer you become to what you used to be normal, grammatically horrifying, but you get my point, is how you deal with the stuff that you're shoving in your backpack because of it. Trauma isn't unique. We're not the only people in the room that get to say we go to trauma. 80% of humanity. I think that 9% is way, way, way low. Disasters obviously create a whole bunch of trauma for people. Those of you from out of town or out of state, Oregon at some point is supposed to have their big subduction earthquake, and next to the military, the DOT is the biggest kid on the block with the most toys. Who do you think is going to be eyebrow deep in disaster recovery and getting our infrastructure put back in? It's going to be our DOT folks. That second bullet is really distressing. There's a lot of data on military, police, fire, EMS. There's nothing regarding DOT or towers for PTSD, suicide, any of those things. We're just not on their radar. Boy, that goes hand in hand with stress. If this is something kind of new to you, or you've discovered that you're having to deal with stress and anxiety all of a sudden, that's your body saying there's some stuff in that backpack that you need to look at. I'm the king of denial. Heck, 20 some odd years of denial. Did you know you're not supposed to run a marriage like you run a crash scene? Who knew? I was in denial for a long time that everything was wrong. I can look back now and kind of go, oh God, I've got some apology letters to write. Fear. One of our Portland responders a bazillion years ago actually came from law enforcement, was with us a short time, was involved in a pretty serious motor vehicle crash with his company truck. Not his fault. He was hospitalized for a little bit, ambulatory, went home and rehabbed for a little bit. I worked with him for a long time trying to get over his fear of coming back to work. He would ask me, how can you go to work knowing today might be the day? He actually went back to law enforcement because, in his words, he at least knew who the bad guy was. Survivor guilt is real. I've worked with a lot of people that the incident wasn't a big deal, but it's haunting them that they feel good that it wasn't them. It's natural, it's normal. It's this part of the body, this part of the brain, going, that's the icky. Hey, but we're good. It's all it is. When your family, your kids, your friends come to you and go, you don't smile anymore. Why are you so angry all the time? When your friends and family are asking questions like that while you're sitting in your recliner, not wanting to be bothered, ding, 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 pay attention to them. Don't blow them off. Your friends and family are the canary in the mine shaft of your emotional health. They're going to know something's going on long before you do, or at least long before you admit to it. I'm a stress eater. The last couple of years, I've gained a fair amount of weight. I used to go to the gym a lot. But when I'm on constant guard, that is exhausting. to go work out anymore. Great. If that turns into 4 or 5 doubles a night, like it did me, ding, ding, ding. When the guy at the liquor store and you are first name basis and you're asking how the kids are, that might be an indicator you're there too much. Pot is legal in Oregon. Whole bunch of CDL holders in this room, and guess what? We can't imbibe. We do have some of our coworkers from time to time think they can outsmart the random band, and guess what? The thing that's really sad, and I know that our agency is not the only one. If we have an employee DUI out, if we have an employee that gets caught taking drugs or something like that, we will just kick him aside like a broken action toy. We won't ask the question, is this new? Is there a reason? Is there maybe something we could do to somehow preserve this employee? For all my adulthood, most of my adulthood, I have made a very concerted effort to never sit still. Because if I have to sit still, that means I have to sit with this. Oh, that's not good. No. The voices in the head are really not something I want to sit with. So I've always been busy. Did volunteer fire, you heard my search and rescue career, at least 2 jobs. As long as I didn't have to sit, I was good. I've always had a natural stammer, that's just who I am. But 2 years ago when this first happened, I could not do this. I would be speaking and all of a sudden my brain would just lock up and I couldn't buy another vowel to save my life. If all of a sudden you see yourself with a bit of a speech impediment or a loved one or a coworker, ding, ding, ding. You go to something bad and all of a sudden maybe you're going towards your spiritual beliefs. You go to something bad or you're in something bad, you go, oh, there is no God. Here's where the rubber hits the road. And again, if we've got a great employee and all of a sudden there's certain things that start popping up and they're not such a great employee all of a sudden, we don't take the time to ask why. We just go, all right, we'll just start making check marks until we manage them out. We are not broken action toys. We are individuals that go to a lot of really, really, really bad stuff. We need to acknowledge that with our employees. Work avoidance, I talked about those roadside memorials. If you catch yourself going the long way back to the station, the long way home, the long way back to the shop, so you can avoid that roadside memorial, there's something going on there that you might want to look at. I already told you I was a workaholic when because I have to quantify them by number after my first divorce. I worked 2.5 years straight through without a day off. That was my avoidance. Let me tell you from someone who's been there, the moment you stop, there you are. I'm living proof that you cannot outrun yourself. You had a great reputation, or maybe it's one of your coworkers that, man, they were the go-to people, they were the answer machine, and all of a sudden, they're really not. Ask the question. You go to enough, you've hit that burnout, you just don't care. But you're not the suicidal type. There's a term, Valhalla, which is a Viking glorious death. Some responders get to the point where, you know what, I'd rather have that Valhalla moment, because at least then I'll have the full dress ceremony, the full dress funeral, I'll go out with a blaze of glory. Or you just flat become unreliable, the complete other side. Obsessed with work, yep. Withdraw from family, you're sitting there on the recliner with absolutely zero desire to do anything. Again, listen to your family and your friends. You go down that list piece by piece by piece by piece, and that second to the last bullet is the result. There's a reason why first responders have an extraordinarily high divorce rate, because apparently you're not supposed to run a scene like you do a marriage. And then the ultimate, the permanent solution for a temporary problem. You're going along, man, you're feeling okay. And then, that anniversary comes back. Our 18th anniversary of 9/11, what did they show again? The video, the footage. When it comes to a death in the family, their birthday, that vacant seat at the holiday table, that top bullet is probably the most disturbing. Number one cause of death in males under 50. Worldwide, one death every 40 seconds. For every successful suicide, 25 attempts. What does that say about our mental health system, not just in the U.S., but globally? We as a being are failing when it comes to this being broken. Statistically, there's probably 8 or 10 of you currently on antidepressant or anti-anxiety meds right now in this room. If you are, good. Stay on them. They're working. 80% says right there. You're going to feel better. The problem is, people start feeling better and go, I don't need these, and pitch it. Then they're surprised they're right back where they were. Sometimes better living through chemistry is a good thing. So you go to something Mickey. Your coworkers, usually pretty joyful, jovial, happy, go lucky, and they've got that 1,000-mile stare. You go up to them and say, hey, how you doing? You kind of go, I'm fine. Fine means you follow up with them and find out what's really going on. The cool thing about this is it is designed and does a very good job of keeping us alive. The one really fascinating thing to me, from a frontal cortex standpoint, is the limbic system doesn't have a lineal time stamp. Remember when you're a little kid and your mom says, don't touch the stove, it's hot? What'd you do? You touched the stove. Duh. You may not remember that event, but I'll guarantee you remember what hot feels like. That's this part of the brain. First time someone breaks your heart, it's right in there. So the next time someone broke your heart, guess what? Brought it right up there and went, okay, this is how we're supposed to feel. It never forgets. Modern man, because we've got this thing up here, is finding all sorts of really great ways to shut this down, to quiet it down, make the voices go away for a little bit. Alcohol and drugs. Friends, I understand firsthand how easy it would have been to crawl into a bottle and never come out. When I was shoving those 4 or 5 doubles down me every single night, that was the only time during the day that this was quiet. And I was at peace. The thing that saved me is being an over-the-top type A going, yeah, this isn't really the way I want to go out. Criminal acts. ODOT people, you know from pretty much day one that we have a card lock system for fuel that you are not going to get away with stealing fuel. You can do a lot of things in our agency, but you steal 1/2 of 1 cup of fuel and they'll remove you from Microsoft Outlook so fast they don't even put the "we wish you well in your future endeavors." Yet, we routinely have people steal fuel and put in their personal vehicles because they don't have the guts to quit. They want to be fired. Law enforcement, I know you do that. You have that problem from time to time too. I was lying to myself for a long time. Got pretty good at it. Why not lie to your friends and your family at that point? Reckless behavior, we kind of talked about that Valhalla moment. Gambling lights up the same part of your brain as alcohol and drugs does. And then we're back to that suicide thing. This is a southern term. Someone give me a definition of a used to. Great.
I used to do it that way, but I don't do it that way no more.
Terrible accent, but well done. I used to go fishing. I used to play ball with my kid. I used to go golfing. If you're taking stock and you've got more used tos than you still do's, again, grammatically horrifying, to get my point, there's something going on. Those Eustas are a very important bellwether also as to where you're at. My cop buddies, you'll understand this one, and also I guess this is Lamaze breathing, but basically you breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. It forces your respiration down, forces your heart rate to slow down, but more importantly, if you're in crisis mode, this is the part of the brain that's thinking for you. Can it count? No. By even counting to 4, now I'm a graduate of Sherwood Public High School, so that is a challenge. Nice, well done. At least counting to 4 starts to reactivate that frontal cortex. Talk to somebody you trust. Talking is one of the most important things. Why do you think therapists get $150 an hour? Talking is vital to get the gunk out. Chaplains, co-workers, whoever. One word of caution. Be careful not to traumatize your loved ones. My first wife, because again I have to quantify my number, she came from business. In fact, our first date, because I'm a classy guy, I took her to Denny's, and we actually tried to out-ick each other on the stuff that we'd been on. My second wife, for the 4+ years I was with her, not once did she ask where I went at night. She just knew my phone would go off, I'd get up, the next morning I'd either still be gone or I'd be in my recliner. But not once did she ask. Be careful. You don't want to traumatize the people you love. If you're not already a runner, I really wouldn't suggest going out for a 5K after going through an icky. But at the very least, go for a walk. Get the stuff, the chemicals, the cortisols, the dopamine, the adrenaline. Work that out of your system by doing something. Perhaps one of those Eustas. Talked about alcohol. What is caffeine?
Stimulant.
Also stimulant.
It's an upper. You're already jacked up from going to that call. Really? Let's pour some more gasoline on the fire. Responders, I know each and every one of us knows the beauty of dashboard dining. And I realize it's not a good shift, that if you don't hear, please drive forward to the second window, please, you haven't had a good day. That's not healthy food, though. Water, water, water. I cannot stress this enough. Lots of it. It cleanses all those chemicals out of your body, keeps your brain hydrated, keeps your body hydrated. Now notice I didn't say beer, I did say water. Do something you like. Life is not the job. My 17 years as an IR, when somebody said, hey, what do you do for a living? I'm an incident responder. Notice, I'm an incident responder. My identity was wrapped up completely in what I did. You ask a firefighter, you ask law enforcement, they're going to say, I'm a... Now, 5 years out of the job, I work for the Oregon Department of Transportation. Do something that you like other than the job. That last bullet is probably the one that I have fractured the most, and I wrote this program probably 15 years ago. Did I read it? Apparently not. After a crisis event, this again is in charge of you, and I've sat with many, many employees that said, man, this is not why I went to the DOT, I'm out. That's this, seeing that as a threat, and your job as a threat, and it wants out. The idea is if you wait 90 days or more, at some point, this is going to quiet down. You're going to start thinking with this. And if at that point you want to go be a barista, knock yourself out.